Hello, Bill Molyneux here with Bill's History and Wargame World. It's January 21st and I'm in Baltimore, Maryland at the B&O Rail Road Museum, and it's also game day. So, of 5 different historic sites across the East Coast, this is one of them that Goober the Traveling Bear has been invited to. So we are visiting here at the Baltimore Railroad Museum. We're waiting for it to open, and oh my gosh, it's Goober the Traveling Bear. Now there's talk of many different games being played inside the museum today, including our friend Wes, who's also a drummer for different bands, but he's going to be in there with his new railroad game, and we're going to interview him and his game coming out. I think it's the publisher is Compass Games. So we have about 10-15 minutes before we go in, and I hope you'll watch this entire video. I think you'll be very enjoyable if you're into trains. If you're into games, that also will be a benefit, because the place is going to be supposedly a lot of games being played. Well, we have a bit of time to kill, so just thought we'd walk around and check on some of these different trains they have on the tracks. And of course, I'm not a train person. I did go to Gilbert's Hobby Shop, which is a train store, quite often, for wargaming supplies. This is some kind of gigantic railroad crane. Got some bad wind. I don't know if I'll have to redo this audio or not. Interesting how the America was built in the world of trains, moving products around. So this museum's got, I guess, 4 lines of trains, as you can see. And well, we're now inside of the train museum. And it's incredible here. They have in the main turntable room, whatever you call it, quite a few trains. And of course, Goober the Traveling Bear. And once again, he's found another danger keep off sign. Alright, well, there's a lot to see here at game day of the B&O Museum. They have over 80 people signed up to play different board games, mostly train games, not necessarily war games, of course. It's not quite that type of venue. So we're going to go and interview Wes Crawford and his new game that's coming out in the next 6 months to a year, I think it is, through Compass Games. Hello, well, I am here at the Railroad Museum, the B&O Museum, at the Great Locomotive Chase game demo by Wes Crawford, and here he is himself to talk about his game, Engine Thieves. And oh my gosh, it's Goober Bear approved. Well, Wes, I've come down here to the museum to look at your game. First of all, why don't you give me a quick talk? What is it about?
All right, this is about what is more commonly known as the Great Locomotive Chase among people that study the Civil War, American Civil War a lot. It's also the Andrews Raid of 1862. And what happened was General Mitchell came out of Nashville and was heading south through Tennessee, and he decided he thought he could take Chattanooga, which would cut the Confederacy in half and possibly end the war by 2 years earlier than it would have. And so Andrews was a trader. He was actually working for the South, where he'd go north and buy contraband supplies and sneak them back to the South. So he's making good money off of that, but he was really a Northerner at heart and worked for the Union, and he was in touch with the military and would tell them where troops were in the South and this sort of thing. And he said, look, if he knew Mitchell and he heard about his plan, he said, give me 20 raiders and we'll go behind lines dressed as civilians and go down to Marietta, right outside of Atlanta, and we'll steal a train, because I know how to do this, and we will burn bridges and cut telegraph wires, and we'll tear up track on our way north and come back and meet with you. We'll sneak our way through all these stations because they won't hear what's going on. And then Atlanta will be severed. Communications with Atlanta will be severed between Atlanta and Chattanooga, and you'll be free to walk into Chattanooga and take it over and not have to worry about reinforcements and supplies from Atlanta.
All right.
So,
what's the train behind you? That we have this great backdrop.
Yes, this train was actually in the movie The Great Locomotive Chase by Walt Disney in 1956. And there's another one, the Lafayette, way over there, also a smaller one. So there's a lot of trains in here, a lot of history in this building. B&O Museum is a wonderful museum, very family friendly. And today we have a special event, Games with Trains.
Well, why don't you show me a little bit of your game? I'm going to swoop the camera down, and I see you have a beautiful map board, and this is what going to be a Columbia game? I forgot.
No, it's a compass game.
Compass game.
Yes.
Everyone, this is a compass game. I messed up.
And it's going to be part of their new Golden Age collection. Ryan Heilman, who is best known for his designs for Hollandspiel, did the graphic arts for this prototype, and he's going to be working on the final product too. But basically, here is Marietta, Georgia, where the Raiders all meet in the middle of the night. They get up and get a ticket to ride to various places north, act like they don't know each other, which is a little bizarre for 20 military-age men to get on there. And so they were, questioned a bit. They get to the next station. Everybody gets off the whole train to eat breakfast because it's 6 a.m. And there's a little hotel, the Lacey Hotel, next to the tracks. On the other side of the tracks are 3,000 Confederate soldiers training right off the tracks. I mean, this isn't a ways over. They quickly put all the soldiers go back in the boxcar. The leader and the engineers get in on the engine and they take off. And they're heading all the way up this track. And it starts at the bottom of the board. It hits south to north. These are all stations they're going over. The blue are bridges, red are dangerous track, and they have to go through Chattanooga, bluff their way through these stations, and then meet General Mitchell in Bridgeport. And,
wow!
So it's a really
this game
long way
looks
to go.
fantastic, and Ryan also he helped develop my Struggle for New France game, the second edition. So
for
can
Blue
you
Panther, right?
Can you tell us, I guess, what happened to these brave fellas that stole this train? Did they get captured and shot, or did they escape?
Historically, they made it to about right here on the board and ran out of wood because, actually, I have to go back and tell the story. When the train got stolen, the conductor, foreman, and engineer ran out of the hotel, saw their train being driven away. They thought it was deserters. They didn't think it was a real raid at first by the Union. And they started running. I mean, people are laughing at them because they're running after a moving train. And a few miles down the road, they ran all the way to Moon Station, where the train had actually stopped to pick up some tools to use for tearing up the track because they couldn't bring that along with them. And they got a pole car, which is like those push cars you see, but with a pole. So they went miles. Each space here is a mile, so you can really feel the distance. And they got up to Etowah and got on a train called the Yonah, a little engine that was just owned by an ironworks a few miles outside of the town. And the Raiders didn't know this was going to be there. So they chased them. The Raiders got stuck in Kingston, which is a major station, and because lots of trains, and this is in the game, lots of trains and encounters are coming south because when the troops in Chattanooga saw a Union army coming, they were actually weaker than the Union thought, and they started sending civilians and even some troops and supplies south. So there's all these extra trains. And so all of a sudden, when the Confederate guys running, and then on the little train, they got on a real train here at Kingston, and they chased them. And they were so close behind them that when they went up, the Raiders got up to Tilton, which is one of the wood stations. These are the wood stations where you can completely fill up with wood. They were not able to fill up. So they got through Dalton, which is another major station, but finally ran out of wood here. All 20 Raiders were captured over the next week or two, and because they all used the same cover story that they were coming from Flemingsburg, Kentucky, to enlist in the South. And so that sort of became their trademark. If they ever heard that story, they knew it was a Raider. And 7 were hung, and a few escaped, but most were then brought back to the Union through prisoner swaps.
Prisoner swap.
Yep.
Wow.
That happened. And all those went back to the war. And they were given the first Medal of Honor to ever be awarded to anybody, because it was a new award, and for what they dared to do and what they endured, even though they were not successful, they were given this honor. So that's worked into the game too. You can earn medals of honor. We have a timeline over here. Each turn is 15 minutes, and with these cards you have to choose 15 minutes worth of actions you're going to do. And
wow.
Here is the train itself. The General is the name of the engine, and this is what they would be stealing. And they have tinder. These are wood cubes. When you move, you use up wood cubes, and 3 boxcars where the actual soldiers would be staying. Now we have, I haven't put them out yet, but we have soldiers, all the actual original participants from the raid. We have little counters for them. And
oh, that's a nice
their
extra
names.
with their names.
Yeah, with their
throw
names.
a couple out there.
Yeah.
I'll zoom in on them the best that I can.
If they're wounded, they're turned over.
Okay.
They can't shoot. But the Raiders lose points. I don't want their lives to be meaningless in this game, and
Okay.
make the Raiders just be reckless, and so you lose points for anybody captured or killed.
All right. Well, this
they
has
will
been.
ride on the train.
I hope you sell lots of copies, and hold up our game box again.
Sure.
And when's our rough idea when you think this will be released?
We're still finishing up play testing. We have about 143 play tests behind us, and when I say we, I do want to give a shout out to Greg Pittenger, who's been play testing a lot and consulting. He lives in Ohio, so we've been getting a lot of play tests in the Ohio area at conventions, and then this area, DC, Baltimore, where I live. And so we've got a solitaire game, it started out as, and now a 2-player version. And
Very
we feel
good.
That's really strong now too. So.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add to our video before we close out?
Yeah, I do want to, part of that shout out to Greg Pittenger, who's helped also a lot with the rules writing. His great-great-uncle was one of the Raiders, and William Pittenger was his name. And in 1882, he wrote sort of the definitive book on the raid and his experiences as a Raider, and it's called The Great Locomotive Chase. And so that's what we're talking about when this engine back here, and there's another one in this museum that they were in a movie by Disney based on the book in 1956. There was a movie. And
All right.
A lot of people my age remember that.
Well,
and it was quite exciting. So.
I know your game's going to do awesome, and it's Goober Bear, the Traveling Bear approved.
Yep.
Thank you for letting Goober and I come and visit you today.
Anytime.
We had
Goober.
Several requests at several museums. We came and visited you. To everyone out there, please visit the B&O Rail Road Museum in Baltimore, Maryland. And thank you. Stay safe, be kind, and be courteous. And Goober wants to play the game already. Just a little bit more of the interior of the museum. Wow. Very cool. The first stone, the Baltimore, Ohio Railroad. Well, if you're into small trains, this is the place to be. I've never done a train video, so wow. The interior of a diesel engine. There's a lot to see in this museum. And they have the standard gift shop. Very cool. Well, I just figured I'd zap off a little bit of video. Wes has got quite a crowd over at his game now. So we're just going to walk around the museum a bit. They sure have a lot of trains in here. So, if you're in Baltimore, come on down to the B&O Rail Road. Not too far from Fort McHenry. Also, there's an Irish Workers Museum across the street. Not my typical video, of course. I normally cover for historic sites, military installations. But look at what I have found. The Conestoga wagon. So something from the French-Indian War actually made it here. This is one of the nicest ones I've seen. It's really, really nice. To everyone that's into trains, I don't know how many people I have on my video channel that really like trains, but one thing is quite impressive is how big these steam locomotives really were. Some of these things are just like a Tiger tank. So I guess I should mention that the ceiling of this building is incredible. All wood. Just an incredible building. More trains, never ending. So, if you're a train person, I think you could spend the entire day. There's a lot to see here. Another train. All right, I'm outside of the train museum, and they even have I think this is G scale. They have the Bridge at Arnhem there. It's pretty cool. Let's see if it's coming through at this side. Oh, there it goes. All right, there's a lot to see and do here. right, I'm going to end this segment. And not sure how I'm going to edit this, so I'll end this with be safe, be kind, be courteous, and come visit the B&O Railroad Museum in Baltimore, Maryland. Thank you.